The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 13. Sky artificially altered the battlecraft systems readings that streamed to the Consortium Command Center to show that a catastrophic equipment failure happened once the craft left Niobe's atmosphere, then detached the craft's location signal and launched it along with the pilot out the airlock. To the Consortium, it would just look like an experimental craft had a glitch that needed to be fixed before rollout. Hopefully that would cause some delays. If the Chameleon class was already in production, they were running out of time. How did you know? Jareth asked gently as they traveled toward the warship. Theoretically, we helped with the design. Sky braced herself against the shame she always felt about being picked for special projects during training. Were you really that bad at simulations? His voice was gentle, his dimples showed when Sky glanced at him. Sky breathed and laughed. Yeah, I was really that bad at simulations. His smile lowered seriously. Were you really, or just acting after you found out what was happening with the special projects? Sky looked down. No act, was all she could say without her eyes starting to sting. She got out of her seat and walked out of the cockpit. Moments later, she returned with a healing kit, much smaller than the healer pack she brought from Serenia, but it would have what she needed. She sat back in her seat and opened the kit on her lap. After scanning through the contents, she pulled the instrument she needed, then started unwrapping the reddened cloth strips around her arm. She sensed Jareth watch her as she felt one of the wounds on her arm, picked up the metal extractor, and pressed it to the cut. Let me do that, Jareth offered gently. Sky shook her head. You're the better pilot. I can do this. She winced when the extractors touched the wound, then winced again when she pulled the piece of glass out of the cut. The other cruisers need to head back to the warship now. I don't think there will be any consortium assistance, but the warship should be moved regardless, she advised as she moved to the next cut. Both are already on board. We're the last ones. General Arbin is readying the ship now. They'll leave as soon as we land. Sky saw Jareb side-eye her as she worked. Third piece of glass pulled from another wound in her arm. As she expected, none of the injuries were deep or serious. The layers of fabric she was wearing from her disguise had soaked up most of the red liquid. Other than washing the cloth, there wasn't much cleanup for anyone. The persistent sting in her shoulder blade, however, would be problematic. There was definitely something in it. Seeing it or extracting it, though. She rubbed her knuckle against her lip, trying to come up with a solution that didn't require asking for help. Maybe she could just live with it? Trying to figure out a way to get the glass out of your shoulder without help? Jareth asked quietly, eyes forward, watching the video feed screen like he was watching out a window. Sky didn't look at Jareth. Her eyes danced around the room, trying to think of any alternative. She rolled her shoulder to check the pain level, winced, and finally nodded. Here, take the controls with your good arm. I'll be done before we land. Sky took the controls, took a deep breath to relax, and kept the cruiser on course for the warship. Jareth lowered the fabric off her shoulder, took the extractors. Take a deep breath, he instructed. Sky breathed in. Now breathe out. Once she started, she felt a quick tug, instant sting, and it was done. Then she felt his breath. He was blowing on her shoulder to soothe the sting. That's not sterile, she reprimanded. I know, but it always helped me feel better when my mother did it, Jeff explained as he did it again. Her body responded to the sensation in a way she'd never felt before. Parts of her throbbed. The fabric of her robe started to irritate her overly sensitive skin. Her heart beat faster. Her next breath sucked in suddenly. Was she going into shock again? She squeezed her legs together to ease the pressure that was building between them. A dampness gathered. Did she need to lie down? Only with him. That thought shot into her head out of nowhere and made all the symptoms in her body worse. She tried to focus on the control panel in front of her, made sure they were still on course, but was having a hard time remembering why it was so important. You don't cry or scream when you get hurt, Jareth noticed, and made the statement sound like a question. Sky's mind shifted. The change in her thoughts helped ease her symptoms. I learned a long time ago crying only makes physical pain worse. I don't know why. Jareth nodded, grabbed the solution out of the kit, and rinsed each of her cuts. Sky's hand flexed around the controls. The sting was intense and from multiple locations at once. She gritted her teeth and waited for it to stop. He then closed each wound with adhesive staples and covered them with sterile gauze. Would you like me to kiss each one better? Yes, her mind screamed. Her body, though, just shook her head no. That won't be necessary. I'm a quick healer. It could be fun, though. She glanced at him. His dimple was showing. He was teasing her. For one of us, anyway. Oh, damn! Dara burst out laughing. That may have stung me worse than your wound stung you. Now Sky was confused. What? Why? Jareth looked at her, laughing stopped, smile and dimple faded. Did you mean you would be the only one who would enjoy it? Sky watched him, further confused by how else it could have been taken, and nodded. Jareth finished closing the healing kit, turned her chair to face him, and leaned close, his arms braced on each side of her to make sure she didn't turn away. Let me be very clear. I would enjoy kissing you very much. He said the word slow, his breath tickling her cheek. Why? She asked, completely unable to find the answer on her own. Would any of this conversation ever make sense to her? His eyes scanned her face slowly, his mouth raised in that smile that made her stomach flutter. You know what? Let me worry about that. You just concentrate on how much you'd enjoy kissing me. All her symptoms returned instantly and stronger than before. The pressure built and she ached to be touched. The landing approach alarm sounded, jolting Sky back to the present. You need to take over, she yelped, flinching back away from him. Her body was shaking and she had no idea why. He leaned in and whispered in her ear, It's okay, Sky. I promise you're safe with me, before he moved away to take his seat and the controls from her. Sky needed to move. She grabbed the healing kit and walked it back to where she'd retrieved it. The moment she was around the corner and out of sight of Jareth, she leaned against the wall. Her hand went to her still fluttering stomach. She took several deep breaths before her body stopped shaking. She couldn't take long. They would be landing soon, and she would need to be back in her seat by then. She started to move again, still a little lightheaded, her free hand sliding along the wall to help with her balance all the way. A short time later. The moment they passed the loading bay barrier, Sky watched the view from the screens as General Arbin turned at his position in the observation balcony and gave the order. Sky knew they were already moving out of the system. The General is taking a risk that it's us considering he can't see us, Jareth observed. Sky looked down and smiled. Because we're in the middle of the craft watching screens and not in the front looking out a window? She asked. Jareth nodded. Sky looked up, watched the image of the general, and waited for him to turn back around. The moment she saw his eyes on the screen, she smiled and waved gently with her good arm. The general smiled that same moment and waved back at them. Jareth didn't know what shocked him more, the fact that the general could see them or that he smiled. He can see us? Sky nodded. The windows you saw at the front of the craft, where the cockpit usually is, they are screens that show exactly what we're doing. Jareth smiled. So it can be used to make the craft look manned even when it's not. Exactly, Sky confirmed. She ran her hand over the master control panel. She is beautiful, isn't she? I never thought I'd get to see her. She noticed Jareth sit back against his seat and watch her. She turned to him. Want to see what else it can do? He smiled, her stomach fluttered again, and he nodded. She got up and made her way to the loading dock, hit the airlock release, and walked down the ramp once it opened. Why did you bring that heap of space trash onto my ship? The general bellowed from the balcony. Sky jogged a few steps away from the craft, then she turned to face it. Her eyes danced over its surface. It really appeared to be a mangled craft from scavenged materials pieced together and barely able to fly. She watched closely as she yelled the words, Echo, Harbinger. Instantly, the patchwork craft shifted. Sleek but weathered lines formed. The wings lengthened. The lines of the nose smoothed. Soon, a signature Harbinger craft appeared, replacing the privateer cruiser. Sky was in awe. She had to take a deep breath to calm the excitement witnessing it caused. She heard gasps and murmurs behind her, others witnessing the transformation. That's better, the general's voice called from above. Sky laughed softly. One more. Echo. Consortium. She yelled. The craft's surface darkened and became perfectly shiny. The lines shifted, sharper edges formed, and soon it appeared as a consortium cruiser. There was one more she wanted to try, but she wouldn't unless Kyla approved. She stepped forward, ran her hand gently over the craft's soft surface. "Don't worry, little one," she murmured to the machine she knew could hear her. "You are safe. Everything's going to be okay." But she knew she needed Kyla to fulfill that promise. She turned to the soldiers, getting ready to hook it up to refresh its resources. "Please take good care of her," she asked before turning and rushing to check on Kyla. Something was wrong with the medical suite. Sky could tell as she neared. She moved directly to the healing pod to check. Kyla wasn't there. Sky's eyes searched, no sign of her anywhere. "Think, Sky." Kyla woke up in a strange place alone. Where did she go? Sky's eyes danced around the room and her eyebrows pulled together. She wouldn't let herself be seen, not until she gathered intel on her new location. She would find air ducts she could use to get to any part of the warship. She searched for all the air vents she could find. There were several high on the walls, too small for her to use. One was close to the ground, larger, an intake. She bent her knees to check the vent. Dust had been displaced. That's how she left the medical suite without being seen. Now, where did she go? She would want to find a vantage point to view her surroundings. The video feeds. Did she already find a way to access them? Was she watching now? Sky stood and glanced around the room. Knew she'd already altered the cameras in the medical suite for covert privacy. Not completely out, but she'd altered the already aged video equipment to be fuzzy enough for no clear record of some of her actions. Kyla would need a room with clear feeds, somewhere that wasn't too public. The bridge. "Let's go." Jareth's voice came from right behind her, so close it made her jump. He took the hand from her uninjured arm and pulled her along with him as they ran. "Where are we going?" she asked, wondering why he seemed to understand the urgency she felt. "The bridge," he answered. Sky cursed herself. Did I say that out loud? "Yep," he answered again. Soon they made it to the bridge. Doors opened when they neared. The general must have been monitoring them. That was a good sign. If Kyla was where Sky thought she was, she could already see them. "Everyone out," General Arvin ordered once they were inside the command room. Quickly, all soldiers left, the doors closed, and the blast doors banged shut over the observation balcony. The moment the room was sealed, Sky started to search. "Kyla, it's me. Please come out. I need to check and make sure you're okay." Sky quieted and listened, eyes scanning the room as she turned, trying to see any movement, hear any sound that would indicate a location. Nothing. "Kyla, this was your plan. I don't know what to do. Please let me know you're okay." Sky went silent again. Still nothing. She didn't have time for Kyla to think the video feed was being altered or her appearance being cloned. Sky didn't have time to waste trying to convince her. "Kyla, that first simulation we had together, I got hurt, really hurt, and you came to help me." Sky cursed when tears sprang to her eyes and her voice shook the way it always did when she remembered. "Then you got hurt too, but you didn't get mad or blame me, didn't insult me. You just came back and we held each other until it was over." Tears fell. Sky quieted and waited, and still nothing. Now she started to get frustrated and scared at the same time. Was Kyla injured? Or had she fallen unconscious again? "Kyla, I joined the healing services for you and you dragged me here, so tell me where your ass is right now," she yelled. A rattle at the far end of the room. Low to the ground. Sky ran, dropped to her knees, and finally saw her on the other side of a vent cover, eyes wild. "If you're lying to me, I will destroy you," Kai warned, using her threatening voice that always got everyone making fun of Sky to back off. Sky smiled. "Deal," she said, and immediately started working the clasp, holding the vent cover in place. Kyla's face softened. Her fingers reached through the slats toward Sky. Sky noticed both Jareth and the general working the clasp. She lowered her hand to touch the fingers of her best friend, watching tears roll down Kyla's cheeks that were matching her own. The vent cover was loosened and moved slightly. Sky pulled her hand back, so did Kyla. The two men moved the cover out of the way. They reached for each other, arms wrapped around each other, both shaking and crying. I'm so sorry it took me so long to get you out, Sky whispered. You got there in time, Kyla assured her calmly. Too calmly. Sky pulled back to look at her. They tried to kill you. She tried to help her friend understand just how badly she had failed her. I know, and I knew you wouldn't let that happen any more than I would let it happen to you. Sky's face softened into a knowing smile. Sky took a deep breath and shook her head disbelievingly. As always, you think too much of me. Kyla shrugged her shoulders. I'm here, aren't I? Sky didn't have an argument for that one. Kyla's belief in her never made any sense, but always ended up being right. Kyla pulled Sky into another hug, whispering into her ear, You don't have to understand it. I've got you, and I know you've got me. Sky took a deep breath, relieved she could finally talk to her again. She felt Kyla's head tilt up. Are you Jareth? She heard his familiar voice sound from behind her. Yes, he said simply. Is Cade here? I need to speak with him now. Her voice was urgent. No, but he gave orders to call him the moment you woke. He informed her and reached to help them up. Sky knew it was her time to leave. Whatever happened next, she didn't get to be a part of. She needed to start making plans to get as far away as possible. She pulled away, got to her feet, and reached to help Kyla up. She felt tremors through Kyla's body as she tried to get her feet under her. Alarmed, Sky looked toward Kyla's legs. They jerked unnaturally. Kyla's face strained with the effort to get them to do what she wanted, and it seemed like they weren't listening. Kyla was all she could voice. My legs don't seem to want to work anymore, she admitted. Leaving plans were put on hold. All three helped her up and held her as they moved her to sit close to a screen. The general started tapping the panel. Sky turned toward the door. Sky, please stay. Kyla turned and reached for her. I can't, Kyla. It would be better if I didn't hear any of this, reminding Kyla of her plan if they ever had to leave Suenia. Kay needs the debrief on what we've done so far, Kyla corrected. Sky stopped. True, she said simply and turned back toward the screen. Kay's intimidating image appeared on the screen. His eyes locked with Kyla's. His face softened for the briefest moment before he spoke. It's nice to finally see you. He spoke softer than Sky had ever heard him, but it still made her feel like huddling into a corner. She saw Kyla smile back at him. Yes, it really is. Thank you for coming so quickly. Apparently not quick enough. The extraction team had barely made it to Sky's apartment when she was already moving you to the port. His lip twitched as he recounted. Kyla looked back at Sky, lips also twitching. Yeah, the timing was always going to be tricky. She turned back to the screen. Did you analyze what I sent you? We're still breaking it down. That's what's been taking so long. The lines keep looping back on themselves. Just when I think we're in, it shuts us back out. That's because we don't have the key yet. When will they be going into production? Kyla asked. Sky was feeling much more comfortable. Nothing that was being said made any sense. Even if she was being tortured for information, she wouldn't be able to explain a thing. Relieved, Sky found a chair and sat to wait until she was needed. Our intel is that they are being beta tested as we speak, Kate informed her. We need to figure out a way to get one as quickly as possible. Kyla's voice lost some of its conviction. Cade's eyes grew big as he tapped his screen again. That might be a problem. The regulations around them have been unprecedented. We're still finding new security protocols that continue to block any of our known methods. Kyla took a deep breath and cursed. It was the only place I could think that it would be safe, but if we can't access a chameleon class, we're dead in the water. Sky's mouth dropped open, then she froze, eyes widening, and she felt lightheaded. Jareth gasped and looked at her. The general even made a low grumbling noise and looked at Sky too. What is it? Kate asked over the video screen. Kyla slowly looked back at her friend. Sky, what did you do? Sky pulled her legs up and hugged them, looked down, and weakly shook her head. She realized she'd somehow gotten exactly what they needed, but still felt like she'd done something wrong. She saw Jareth out of the corner of her eye motion to the general. He tapped the screen, and suddenly the blast doors opened to the balcony overlooking the landing dock. There she stood, currently dark and gleaming in her little corner of the landing dock. Sky watched Kyla's reaction, her eyes wide, quick intake of breath. By the powers, is it really? Sky couldn't look at her, just slightly nodded. General Arbin, would you please have your men leave the dock, then seal it? I just want to be sure, she requested. Cade's image nodded his agreement. The general bellowed the order, then sealed the area once the last man left. Kyla tried to stand. Her badly shaking legs refused to accept her weight, and she stumbled. I'm sorry to ask, but would you mind helping me get a better view? Both men took a side. She leaned heavily on both, but forced her rebellious limbs to move even if they weren't supporting her weight. Sky was too afraid to move, but watched closely in case she was needed. The three settled at the overlook. Kate's image on the screen looked skeptical. Are we sure it's not just a newer model battlecraft? Kyla looked back at Sky with a large smile, turned to Kate and winked. Then she turned back to the craft, took a deep breath, and echo. Sky covered her ears and closed her eyes. She couldn't know this, couldn't see this, or she would never be able to keep them safer by leaving. Whatever happened next would make her a bigger risk away from them. This was her only chance to keep them safe. She couldn't know. She waited longer than she thought she needed just to be safe. She took a breath, slowly opened her eyes, and uncovered her ears. Potentate! Kyla then shouted. Sky groaned, but also had to watch. The craft changed again, turning even darker into absolute black, sharper angles, official seals, everything it needed to confirm the only vessel that could bypass all security protocols in all the known universes. Cade was the first to speak. Looks like we're in business.